I'm Julie Saunders.
I'm Jan Wilson. Julie and I both have experience as school librarians, and we've worked together as district library leaders.
In each episode, we'll dive into our profession with interviews and meaningful content to inspire you. We're not experts,
but we're pretty close.
The ideas and opinions shared by any host, guest, or listener are their own and do not represent those of any respective school district.
Welcome to Library Exchange.
This episode is sponsored by Lerner Publishing Group. Founded in 1959, Lerner Publishing Group is one of the nation's largest independent children's book publishers, with 17 imprints and divisions including Carol Rhoda Books, Gecko Press, Graphic Universe, Lerner Publications, Millbrook Press, 21st Century Books, and Zest Books.
Lerner also partners with 26 renowned international and U.S.-based publishers to provide an outstanding collection of children's and young adult titles for schools and libraries. Browse Lerner's offerings at lernerbooks.com.
We're excited that our guest today is the school librarian at Meadow Creek High School, Cicely Lewis. She is someone who has truly created a student-centered library program.
Okay, so Julie, I like to clarify some of the terms that you use. So what do you mean by student-centered library?
So the term actually speaks for itself. It's when you put those students first, they're the center of your program. Often we get requests from administrators and teachers that focus on things that accommodate the adults, like faculty meetings and school council meetings. But most events and activities should be student-focused. You can't go wrong if you put students first.
Okay, so the beginning of that was just a little bit passive-aggressive, but
I'm passionate. It's okay.
Passionate instead of passive-aggressive. Okay. So you may already know, everyone, that Cicely was the National Librarian of the Year in 2019. She also was a Library Journal Mover and Shaker, and she also won the National Teacher Award for Lifelong Readers.
In the past few years, Cicely has been busy as the author of several book series from Lerner Publishing Group, the Hair Magic series, and the upcoming Black Trailblazers in Sports series.
We could just spend this entire episode listing all of her achievements and awards, but we won't.
Absolutely could. Yes. So welcome to Library Exchange, Cicely.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Cicely. So before we get started with our questions, I always think it's important to let people know the community you serve, a little bit about your high school. Can you start us off there?
Yes, that's my favorite topic, is talking about my school and my school community. It is a wonderful community of people who truly are family oriented. I feel like my school is very family oriented. I've been there for 15 years, so seen several brothers and sisters come through the school, and even met a child of a student recently visiting from elementary school. I'm not that old yet, so. But we have roughly 2,600 students. I serve the population grades 9 through 12, and 88% free and reduced lunch. 43% of our students are multilingual learners, and we have 37 languages spoken at my school and 44 countries represented. And it's a no-brainer that, this is Gwinnett County. Gwinnett County is the 9th diverse school district in the nation. And most of our schools are pretty big and are very diverse. So, when I talk to other librarians in my community, it's, this is, it's pretty similar across the board. We serve huge populations compared to other districts. So I love my Meadow Creek community. And, like I said, I've been there 15 years. My son actually went through the elementary program. That's how much I love the district. And so that's one of my favorite topics to talk about, working with my school and my school community, because I truly feel like it's a family-oriented school.
Yeah, and even with a school enrollment so large, you have found ways to reach your students, which is one of the reasons we're talking to you today, because it's difficult. It's not easy.
Yes, it really is. And we also are home to an international transition center. And so it is, it's that's another, set of kids and just another opportunity for me to bring more kids into the school library.
Can you describe what the International Transition Center, what that actually is for other school districts that may not have this type of program?
Okay, and so from what I know, it is a program. We had so many kids coming from directly from other countries, and so as a way to transition them into the school system, we have the International Transition Center where they can get the support they need. They're housed on our campus. Some of their classes they take, with Meadow Creek students as well. So some of the electives, but they really get an opportunity to work in a smaller group setting because many of the classes are smaller, and to really help them build up their language skills before we transition them into different classes at the high school level. So, and I think it's great because if you can imagine coming from a completely different country, and then some of our students were not in school in their country. So this is their first time not only in a new country, but in a school setting. So I think it's very beneficial to the students to transition them in.
Sounds like a great program, and your community sounds incredible at Meadow Creek. When you have new students that come to the school, it's already challenging to be a new student, as you just described. What types of things do you do to make sure that you're providing services for each and every student, or as a part of welcoming newly enrolled students? Is there anything that you do in your library program?
So when I came, it was really new to me that when other schools finished registration, we were still doing registration throughout the year. Working at a school like my school, when the registration period ends at the beginning of the year, that's for many schools, it's over. But for us, even when I was in the classroom at Meadow Creek, because I began in the classroom, I remember getting new students in May. And so as a school librarian, I see it even more. And so one of the things that I did, like many school librarians do, is I had orientation for the 9th grade language arts classes. And then I realized that was not enough because, like I said, I have multilingual learners many of them are in the ESOL program. And so I recognized we were not reaching out to them and the ITC students. So I started doing library orientation for them and just bringing them in, getting them acclimated to the school. And then I was inspired by Jerry Craft's book, The New Kid. That's one of my favorite graphic novels. And I actually got a grant as part of the winning School Librarian of the Year from School Library Journal, from Scholastic, to purchase books. And so one of the books that I purchased tons of copies of were The New Kid. And I got these bags and I filled them with like a map of the school and just bookmarks and candy and that book and an invitation to eat lunch with us and discuss The New Kid. And so when the kids come through, because when they register, they have a student that takes them through so they can see the main parts of the school. And so when they come to the library, they get a bag, they get an invitation, and you would be surprised at how many of them take me up on that offer because many new kids don't have friends to eat with. And so I can truly tell when they feel acclimated to the school because they stop coming to eat lunch with me. I don't see them anymore. And so
And that's the goal,
sad.
right? That's the goal.
It's good. It's good. So it is beneficial in that aspect. So I know they're being successful at that point.
I love it.
They may be leaving, because I had one girl, she came back with her book and she was like, I'm moving again. And I was like, keep your book, take it with you. So you'll always remember the school library.
I love that because that's something that can be done at any level, K through 12. I mean, there are librarians right now that are being inspired by that tip and trick that they can implement in their library program?
That's easy for you to coordinate, maybe with your front office, that the library is part of that stop when they do the tour, because they're seeing the space, they're meeting the librarian, and it starts building community immediately. So Cicely, you have library science students at the high school level. So what are some of the leadership opportunities that you have given them, again, as we talk about having a student-centered program?
So that's my favorite. I know I said school community was my favorite, but my I would not be able to do it without my library science students. I kind of call it taking lemons and turn it into lemonade. I don't have a school clerk, library clerk. And so initially I was really like, how am I going to do this without that? And so when I had the opportunity, I took, in some library science kids, and it was great, but it became overwhelming. And so as you learn and you grow, you take these opportunities to make positive situations. I partnered with my work-based learning teacher. She was already finding jobs for the kids. And so she took on that, administrative role of, she does the initial interview, she vets them, and she if she hears a kid in the interview say they love reading, then she's like, okay, I know where you're going. But they come in, they have to apply, they have to have a resume, they get interviewed, and they come in, and we have different roles for them. So we have like a social media coordinator. We have I can't remember all of them, instructional assistant. We have a front desk manager. So different positions for them to apply for, so they can, when they come in, they can kind of find that niche. And it really, to see them to take the ownership that they take in their position, it's a great feeling to see that. And then they can add that to their resume, and we pay their senior dues, so it feels like a real job. And they go through these different modules. And when you say student center, when you open the podcast, that's truly what you find. When you walk in to my school library, you'll be greeted by a student there at the front desk.
Love that.
Assisted. They even try to laminate. They've messed up a lot of laminations, but hey, they and I even have them teaching with me the library orientation, because they hear it so much that ultimately I tell them, you're going to have to go through the presentation. And so now, if I'm busy or if I need to do something else and we have a class that wants to come in, they can actually lead those lessons and go through and explain everything about the school library to you. So they are truly leaders.
The other thing is there a great resource for feedback or input probably into your program? And so, because you've given them ownership in the space. So that's a great example.
And they will tell you if they don't think something, they're like, Miss, the kids are not going to like that idea. Like if I want to do some type of program, they're like, nobody's going to want to do that, Miss Lewis. I'm sorry. They'll tell me that's not, can we do this or can we change that? And hey, you don't have these books. Can we order these books? And so you're right. They will.
They're our largest stakeholder, so we have to listen to them.
That's truly student-centered. That's awesome. So I do stalk your social media. So on your social media at some point, I believe I saw something posted about a Quinceanera fashion show. Can you explain a little bit about that? Where did it start? Where's the idea for it? Why? And, how do you implement something like that?
Well, it's selfishly, I want to have a quinceanera every year. That's what initially it started with a prom book fashion show, because the prom coordinator came to me and he was like, the kids don't sign up to go to the prom because they really have no idea what that is. And that, I mean, being honest, I don't think it really means anything to somebody who just had a $20,000 ball in their honor when they were 15. So, so once I learned about it, I got really excited, and the kids would come back to school and they would say, hey, you saw my dress, and they would share. I've been invited to quinceañeras by the students. And so I was just looking at my population, most of my students have had a quinceanera or they didn't have one, and they're experts on it. And so, like, to truly center programming, it needs to, I think, ultimately connect with the community, because, we talk about having diverse books, but your programming needs to reflect that too. And so, stepping out of my comfort zone and allowing the students to lead. And so, I partnered with Cinderella's Gowns. Many of the students had their own dresses, and it was an activity that we used to highlight for Hispanic Heritage Month, and not just doing. And I think there's a need for it, but the reports where the kids have to write a report and get up and regurgitate the information, but making it something where they truly had ownership, and it truly, it gives them pride in their culture. And then for the students that have never heard of it, they get to learn about something. This year we had last year and this year we had parents come. This year the parents came and did a traditional folklorica dance. And so we partnered with Cinderella's Gowns. So it's truly a community-centered event. Like, we have many different stakeholders involved in it. And it just came out of, me being inspired by the students.
Cicely, so you formed this partnership with Cinderella's Closet or whatever. So did they provide gowns for those who didn't have one? I'm just trying to understand.
Yes,
Okay.
because I wanted to make sure it was inclusive.
Mhm.
So if no matter who you are, you can, some of the kids said, I didn't have a dress, or I'm not Latino, I'm not Hispanic. And I was like, you can still participate, because we wanted it to be inclusive. So that's where Cinderella's Gowns comes in. They allow the students to come and pick 3 dresses. And on the day of the event, they bring their dresses. They have an attendant that helps us. We even had a student from this collaboration who ended up getting a job with Cinderella's Gowns. So, and the manager has made a commitment every year. He says, for prom season, I'm going to hire at least 20 students from your school. And so it's just been a great opportunity for everybody. So everybody can be involved in this.
That is so great. What a great community partnership. Really a handshake, a way to have opportunities for that business and get the word out, but also those great opportunities for your students. That's so awesome.
Cicely, so each time there's a major election, whether state, federal, you do a voter registration drive or some type of publicity for that. So can you speak to that?
Yes, I think it's important. After I started the Read Woke Challenge, I wanted to help the kids take action, because, we read the books, we got the information. How can we take action? And one of the easiest, most powerful ways is through voter registration. And so I work with my history department and a few other teachers and some clerks. We had a really amazing clerk at my school, and she was very instrumental in getting me all of the information, running reports, which students would be 18 by this election. And then we reached out to those students via like a postcard we sent it to their class and invite them to come in. And then we had the social studies teachers. It might have been, I think it was econ, because those are the senior history teachers. Econ teachers bring the kids in, and we just talk to them about voting, why it's important. It's all nonpartisan. We don't endorse any candidates. We just give them information, help them get registered. And the kids really, got into it. Especially, we did it during the pandemic. And we started a voting book club, and we read Brandy Colbert's The Voting Booth. And we posted about it, and she ended up hearing about it, sending all the kids autographed copies of her books. And the kids really saw that what they were doing really mattered.
You had them post, you had them post like when they voted or when they had their voting sticker, like on social media, correct?
Yes. And sometimes even to this day, they'll send me their picture with their voting sticker and say, hey, I voted. They just want to let you know that they voted. So that was my goal too, is not just voting now with me, but become a lifelong voter and making sure you vote in your local elections too. So it's been a rewarding experience and just a great way to that feeling you get when you register a kid to vote, that is, man, I'm telling you, that's a magical feeling. And yeah, I'm addicted to it. So
Another great program. So I actually, I already mentioned I'm a stalker of your social media page, and I believe at some point I saw something about audiobook yoga. Sounds
yes,
incredible. Explain that.
the PE teachers, the coaches, like when everything was happening so fast, and the best advertisement for a school librarian is word of mouth. And so initially when I came in, and I talked to a lot of librarians, and this is a main issue, I can't get them to bring their classes in. They won't come anymore, especially after we went one-to-one devices, because many of them were using us as computer labs. So take that away, and it's like they weren't coming in. And I realized how much I was relying on those language arts teachers. So partnering with the PE teachers, the coaches in your school, that has been the best way to boost circulation for me. Both ways, healthily. That's what I did there. The PE coaches wanted to do something. I started something called Read Fit. We got exercise bike desk, and then it just kind of got a little stagnant. And so I'm trying to remember how it all came to be, because it was such an organic process. We to market our audiobooks, we wanted to really show the kids the power of audiobooks. I had the idea to just bring them in, and we had a coach at the school, and he's into yoga. He was like, he does yoga, and so I found an audiobook that was high interest, or so I thought, and we played it, and they listened. And through the journey, I've learned they like self-help books. They like to listen to self-help books while they do yoga. And so we did it, and we took all the tables, moved them out, and got the kids on the mats, and he led it. They already knew the moves. So we just listened to the book, and they did the moves. I even joined in, and eventually, for to make it easier, we started. I think when I went to a conference, we did chair yoga, because that's even easier, and it's even a better way to do it. So it's fun, and like I said, it can really help kids see that audiobooks are reading too.
This is a great example of the types of programming happening in libraries. When people don't think of the library in this way, it's not just wood and furniture with books. There's so much more, and what a great way to pull in that curriculum area.
I mean, it's such creative programming, and it does promote reading, but it also is more about connections, and
Yes.
you're connecting with people through library programming, and have brought value to your school and found ways to pivot even with adversity and challenges like the pandemic, like not having a clerk. You've continued to provide creative, amazing services that your students attend. They show up.
Yeah.
You have that student-centered program. It's incredible.
And I do think one thing that you just mentioned is, back in the day, the library was the place to go because that is the only place where the technology was, when you think about it. But now there's so many other things that you can do in your programming and in your space, especially with one-to-one, because I know teachers are like, why should I bring them into this space?
Yes.
So that's a great point that you made. Cicely, do you want to share any instructional connections that you have with teachers? I mean, I know there are curriculum barriers sometimes. Time is always a big barrier, but is there a curriculum connection you'd like to share?
One thing that I was, because I'm very self-aware, and I like to really, like, what can I do better? How can I be better? Is my instruction of multilingual learners and ESOL learners. I was really at a deficit, because when I taught, at the time that I was teaching, I don't think we had, or I didn't have the access to all the strategies that are used now. And so that was another group. When the language arts teachers, when they stopped, when I couldn't get the collaboration out of them that I needed, partnering with the ESOL teachers has truly shown me that I have a lot of growth, a lot of work to do. And so working with them and working through the strategies in our school, and it might be a district initiative, but they will pay for you to get ESOL certified. And so they are actually encouraging all the teachers in our school to do it. And so I've been learning a lot just watching these teachers, like coming in a lesson that I had used for another class, thinking that I could use it with them. And it's a great lesson. Like I've done it so many times before. You know, that lesson that it just pops every time, and then it just fell flat. And I was like, what? And the ESOL teachers were like, look, this is what we do. So we sat down, we talked, and I took my lessons and just really, I had to go back in and start over. And also working with our special ed population, thinking, okay, I think many times people don't think, when you think of who goes to the library, you really, sometimes we leave out our special education program. And so making sure that I work with them, and it's out of my comfort zone because there's just a lot to learn, but now I'm learning it. And so I guess my instructional tip would be, don't ever get so stagnant or comfortable that you can't grow and you can't learn from something, and step out of your comfort zone and reach out to these different groups in the school and get them in the school. And like I tell the teachers, even if you just want to change the scenery, you just want to teach in a different setting, get them in the school library. Because what I hate, and the kids know this, don't ever say this to Miss Lewis, oh, I've never been to the school library all my years here, or I've never checked out a book. As soon as they say it, I'm like, oh, you checking out a book today. So, but yeah, just being open to new things and challenging yourself. And, that's my biggest instructional tip, I
Julia,
think.
what do I always say?
I'm not sure.
You're not going to know the quote. I want you to pull out.
A lot.
I do say a lot.
So when you're through changing, you're through. Y'all know that one? So like when you're not willing to change, you have to in education.
Well, and especially in the school library. If you're not adaptable, I'm on, Facebook groups with school librarians nationwide, and I think sometimes the school librarians are focused on the wrong things. The things that bring you value to your library are those true connections that you've described during this entire interview. Being able to connect in ways that sometimes you have to be creative. It does not have to be teaching language arts based lessons. You can reach out to your PE teacher and connect through the audiobook yoga. You can reach out to your small populations, the special ed and the English as a second language groups, and really connect with those students and be able to make a difference in creative ways through actual lessons, through programming, through events. All the things you've described, I really feel can inspire others to find creative ways to connect. I think people get stuck and unfortunately, there's a lot of school librarians nationwide that don't have a teaching background. And to hear from someone who does have a teaching background say, you know what, I struggle. I try to learn that there's new instructional strategies in these different areas that I've not heard of before. I think people will really appreciate hearing that, and that they can learn and grow and get those connections and provide value for their school. And that's what we want. We want school librarians to feel valued. We want their programs to be valued. And the ways you do that is through the connections and the types of things that you've described today. It's just incredible, Cicely. I'm so appreciative of all the things that you've shared with us.
And I couldn't do any of it without, we have a great support system. We have a library media services program. I came in not knowing anything. I've never been in a group that has just been so willing to share. Like they were like, oh, do this, take this lesson. All you have to do is take my school name off of it and put your name there. And just some of the best school librarians, they have really just, I go in with the lesson that they have and I share it, and it makes it so easy for me. So, and we have a lot of PD. And so that's something I'm really, really strong about recommending. Go to PD. Like Jan said, when you stop learning or you not stop changing and evolving, then you can't continue. And so I like to go to PD. I like to listen to what other people are doing. And I just, anything that somebody's doing, I can try to spin it and take it and adapt it to my program. And so
That's
I
the
really appreciate that.
That's the last piece, you guys, for a student-centered library. You have to have a librarian. You have to have a librarian.
Certified.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Certified.
Yes.
Certified.
Yes.
Cicely, thank you for your time today. Julia, we could discuss so many things about Cicely, but I am glad that we decided to focus on all the ways that she has a student-centered program and it's intentional.
Absolutely. I think we go right into a recap. We exchanged ideas during the interview. Now, what are the key takeaways?
I just wanted to start off by saying at the high school level, sometimes the only time a student comes in is when they have ninth grade orientation or freshman orientation. So adding that as a stop when a new student enrolls where they can see your space, they can meet the librarian, great way to build community.
I think it was awesome, too, how she welcomed new students in a way that when they didn't have a social group yet, that she was that person, the familiar person at the school. And students often would eat lunch in the media center, and then eventually they dropped off. And that's the goal. You want them to find their group and their place, their people at their new school.
I love that idea of new student enrollees coming in there.
I think it's good too. It's hard to include new students, especially in a school with as much diversity and transient populations. So when she was saying they have new students weekly, that's tough for educators to have to welcome a new student weekly because it changes the dynamics. But again, we're public educators. And if you're in a public school, your job is to help each and every student, whether they walked in the door today for the first time or have been there all year. And that's a challenge. That's a challenge for all educators, especially school librarians.
You know, I've come across people before who have said, I only want students to come into the media center that have a reason to be there or, because they have a research question. But when you have other events where they come into the space, I think they're more likely to come in there when they do need you. So having those, we didn't really talk about the prom theme fashion show that she had because that included the students holding a book while they walked down the runway, and she had them write like a little summary. But and then I thought it was great how she said from audiobook yoga, she discovered her students were really into nutrition and self-help books. So win-win.
So I really appreciated her talking about the audiobook yoga because I feel that sometimes librarians have trouble connecting with teachers, especially in Cicely's case where she may not have the time because she doesn't have a clerk. Also, the fact that there's new curriculum with language arts. And whenever there's a new curriculum, the teachers are busy teaching bell to bell. And so they often don't feel like they have time to come to the library. But Cicely got creative. And with that audiobook yoga, she started reaching out to other teachers in the building. And that was a real lesson for me, an eye-opener, because often librarians feel that they have to do language arts-based lessons. They feel like they have to include language arts teachers only because they're promoting reading. But how awesome was it that Cicely connected with our PE teacher, and he happened to be very interested in yoga, and Cicely's trying to promote audiobooks. So what a perfect combination.
Julie, you mentioned something about turning that fashion show into something that a different level could do because you have a middle school background.
Well, I mean, I was thinking of other events that might be similar, and maybe in other schools across the nation, they have an 8th grade dance or they have a daddy-daughter dance at the elementary level. Anytime where kids are getting dressed up for a special event, they certainly could connect reading with those events in creative ways. So really, you could figure out a way to implement that fashion show K through 12.
Yeah, she also mentioned later that they had to write a book review for the book they were holding or had a friend write a book review. So she kind of brought in that persuasive writing in there too. But it's a great way to get kids in. And her students didn't necessarily understand the importance of prom because it wasn't something familiar to their culture. And then she learned about their culture and turned it into Quinceanera. Unbelievable.
I want to go back to something else she said, and that was talking about her library science students.
Mhm.
I felt like there were so many good opportunities that she implements for those students to have leadership skills. And boy, does she just shine when she talked about her library science students. You could really see the passion she has for that program. And for those at the high school level and even at the middle school level, when you have student helpers, what great opportunities where she had actual positions they applied for and they really got ownership. They felt ownership over those positions and earned things from it. So in her case, I believe they had their senior dues paid for,
Mhm.
but they also could add it to their resume because there were so many good opportunities that came along with those positions that they applied for.
That would have been Jan Wilson in high school, or even middle. But she said she teaches them how to answer the phone and how to acknowledge people when they walk in.
How about the fact that when they hear the orientation so many times with the new students that they jump right in and start doing the orientations with her? And how great is that to see peer-to-peer mentoring in that way? I just think it's fantastic.
For all the librarians out there who do orientation over and over and over, pull those students in. But
So one last thing, I know there were so many things we could talk about, but one last thing, I really, really appreciated when she was talking about her instructional strategies and how even the National Librarian of the Year talked about, with an instructional background even, how the strategies change and she's not familiar with some of the new strategies. So she learns and she reflects and she improves. I think that's a good lesson for veterans, but also those that don't have a teaching background that are trying to do lessons and activities in a library. Who could you go to find out more about strategies? How about watching the teachers? Teachers in your school that you admire, that you see how effective they are, and partnering up with someone to get a few ideas to spruce up your instructional strategies in the libraries. It's never too late to get some new strategies and also to reflect and try to improve as an instructor.
you know what I say, Julie? Do you remember the quote?
No, you've got to remind me again. I'm sorry, I'm 50.
Well, you're almost 51.
I am.
When you're through changing, you're through. It's not original. I saw it on a sign. But when you get to the point where you don't want to change, like that's, I don't even know how to say it.
Well, I completely agree. And too bad I can't remember it, even though you say it often. But at some point, that'll be my goal in this recap. I'll be able to remember that quote from you because it is a good one.
To close this out, you can follow Cicely Lewis on Instagram. Her handle is Cicely the Great.
Make sure to visit our website at www.libraryexchangepodcast.com.
You'll find episode notes and links. You can even submit your questions or inspiring stories that may be featured on the podcast.
If you're looking for some swag for your library or book-loving friends, visit libraryexchange.etsy.com.
That's a lot of URLs, so I'm glad you had to say all of that, Julie.
Thanks for joining us. We can't wait to have you back for our next episode of Library Exchange.